The Chosen One's Journey by Dragonwolf12. Ash stood in a secluded clearing, deep in the woods that surrounded Saffron City. It was around 5 o'clock in the morning, and the young trainer had snuck out early in order to deal with his newest capture alone and away from civilization. Standing in a circle around the trainer were 7 different Pokemon: Pikachu, Riolu, Gyarados, Bulbasaur, Charmeleon, Haunter, and Zorua. Each of these were tense and ready for a battle. "Are you guys ready?" Ash asked the Pokemon. Each of them nodded, ready to defend their trainer. "Well, here goes nothing," he said, and released his new Beldum. The Pokemon appeared in a flash of blue light, appearing perfectly calm. It floated around in a circle, observing all the other Pokemon surrounding it. It then turned and stared at Ash for a full minute. Ash stood firm and unwavering. Beldum was his Pokemon now, and he wouldn't stand for behavior like yesterday. "Beldum," it finally said with finality. Ash blinked. He had forgotten that he couldn't understand Pokemon until he had bonded with them. Pikachu leapt up to his customary spot on Ash's shoulder. "He said, 'You'll do,'" the mouse Pokemon translated. "I'll do?" Ash asked incredulously. "You mean to say that all those attacks that you performed on traveling trainers then on the city was some sort of test?" "Bell," the Pokemon nodded. "Yes," Pikachu said, almost unnecessarily. Ash let out a sigh of exasperation. He looked at Beldum carefully. "Whenever I capture a Pokemon, I bond with them with an aura bond. Do you understand what that means?" Beldum's eyes seemed to widen slightly. It was difficult to tell, before it nodded. Ash took that as a sign, and walked up to the Iron Ball Pokemon. Laying a hand upon the crest above Beldum's head, Ash called upon his aura and initiated an aura bond. Latching on to the Steel Psychic-type's aura, he began weaving it and bonding it to his own. Before Beldum had the chance to seal the bond, however, Ash asked a question. "Why?" Beldum was silent for a moment. Ash could feel that it was collecting its thoughts. "I wish to be strong, the strongest of my species. I realize that in order to be the strongest, I need a strong trainer. However, most humans are weak, and I only want to be captured by the strongest. I believe that you will be the strongest." With that, Beldum sealed the bond, leaving Ash completely stunned. "So, how did you end up all the way in Kanto?" Riolu asked. "Your species is only supposed to be found in Hoenn and sometimes Sinnoh." "I'm not sure," Beldum responded. "I was originally living on Metagross Mountain in Sinnoh. Then, one day, I woke up in this forest here. What about you? You're supposed to be a Sinnoh native." "I was hatched here," Riolu said, then turned to his trainer. "You know, Ash, you never did tell us how you got me and Dratini." "It was really strange," Ash said. "I got you two as eggs in the mail about a month or two before I left on my journey. I don't know who sent them. There was just a note that was signed, 'A Friend.'" "That's really weird," Haunter commented. "Well, enough chit-chat," Ash ordered. "Charmeleon, I want you and Bulbasaur to break in our newest recruit. You 3 that will be battling later today, I want you to do the basic workout. No use risking an injury. Everyone else, I want to see some training." All of the other Pokemon got to work. An hour later, Brock and Misty came into the clearing, having been able to track Ash down due to his training with them the previous week. As it neared 11 o'clock, Ash called everything to a halt and returned everybody. The trio then made their way back to the Pokemon Center. Once Nurse Joy had restored all of Ash's Pokemon, he made his way over to the Saffron Gym, with Brock and Misty right behind him. "Do you think you're ready for this battle, Ash?" Brock asked, as they made their way to the gym. Ash let out a sigh. "To be honest, I'm kind of nervous. Rock, water, and electric types are one thing, but psychic types are something else. I'm going to need to be careful, 'cause she's going to make me work really hard for this badge." "Well, I'm glad you're not letting your undefeated status go to your head," Misty commented lightly. "I'm not undefeated," Ash replied. "This guy called Steven beat Gibble and I on board the St. Anne." "Really?" Misty said in surprise, and then she grinned. "Well, I guess you learn something new every day." "Ha ha, you're hilarious," Ash said. "Guys, please don't start now," Brock pleaded. "Hey, look, there's the gym!" Brock was pointing at a large building up ahead, with the International Gym symbol on it. Entering the building, they were surprised to see that it looked completely empty. Ash activated his aura sight, and a perfect schematic of the whole building filled his mind. He could see several rooms filled with people, all wearing lab coats. "It's a school," Ash said as he led them to a door around the corner. "A school for psychics to learn to control their powers." Inside, they could see several people trying to use telekinesis on spoons or attempting remote viewing of cards. "Really?" Brock asked, interested. "What do you know about psychics? Is it anything like aura?" "It's actually a subcategory of aura," Ash explained. "First, at least one of your aura types needs to be psychic. Then you train your mind to focus your aura so it's only psychic. Then you can learn how to use telekinesis or telepathy. The amount of power you're able to exert depends on how many types of aura you have and mental strength. If you have a lot of types, then it's harder to focus on just the psychic type." "Interesting," Brock said, looking thoughtful. "You told me that your aura is all types," Misty said. "Does that mean you can't focus on a single one?" "Normally that would be right," Ash said. "But I also have what's called the Guardian Aura, the same kind of aura that the official Aura Guardians harness. This gives me more control and power than the average person. With enough training, I will be able to use any of my elements just as well as someone with a single element. In fact," he continued, "you guys are pretty lucky I did do my Guardian training. Without it, I would be this bipolar, egotistical, rash, lazy, impulsive, childish amateur trainer. Having so many types can really mess with someone's personality." "I guess that is lucky. I don't think I would have been able to stand having to travel with someone like that," Misty said. "So, have you done any psychic training?" "No," Ash replied. "I can't focus on any individual types until I reach a certain point in my Guardian Aura training. However, Guardian Aura can do some basic telekinesis, but it's mostly about enhancing strength, reflexes, and senses. Some of the masters can even use aura to create physical constructs." "Wow, that's really cool, Ash," Misty said. "Come on," Ash said. "Sabrina is this way." He led them deeper into the building, eventually coming up to a large set of doors. They each had a Pokeball symbol on them, and the gym symbol was painted on the wall above them. "I can sense Sabrina behind these doors," Ash said. "Speaking of which, I'm pretty sure her aura is pure psychic type." Ash pushed the doors open and confidently walked into the room beyond. Just as he thought, it was a battlefield. Sabrina stood on the other side of the field, her face an expressionless mask. Floating above her were 3 Pokeballs. They were orbiting her head like moons might orbit a planet. "That's really creepy," Pikachu stated. "Hey, that's what I said!" Squirtle nearly shouted, causing Ash to flinch. "Don't shout like that!" Gyarados roared. "None of us need a headache right before a battle." "Sorry," Squirtle said sheepishly. "Gyarados, you were louder than Squirtle," Pidgeot said lightly. "Oh, oops," the atrocious Pokemon said just as sheepishly. "Ha ha!" Squirtle said in an annoying sing-song voice. "You're lucky I'm not there, you damn turtle," Gyarados threatened. Doing his best to ignore his bickering water types, Ash stepped up to the trainer's box and nodded to the referee. "Good luck, Ash," Misty said. She and Brock made their way over to the stands to watch. "Luck's got nothing to do with it," Ash replied, giving them a cocky grin. It was all an act, however, designed to make Sabrina underestimate him and lower her guard, if even slightly. He couldn't tell if it was working or not. "This will be a 3-on-3 single elimination match between challenger Ash of Pallet Town and Saffron Gym Leader Sabrina," the judge announced. "The match will be declared over when one trainer wins 2 of the 3 battles and declared victor. Substitutions are not allowed. Release your Pokemon!" One of the Pokeballs orbiting Sabrina rocketed out onto the field. It bounced on the dirt and popped open, releasing a Mr. Mime. "Mr. Mime!" it challenged. Ash pulled out his Cherish Ball. "Zorua, to the battlefront!" he shouted, launching the ball to the field. The tricky fox erupted out of the ball and started giggling evilly. "Zorua versus Mr. Mime! The challenger has the first move. Battle, begin!" "Zorua, feint attack!" Ash shouted. "Got it!" he replied. The tricky fox Pokemon quickly ran down the field, nearly as fast as a quick attack. Ash waited for Sabrina to counterattack, but she didn't say a word. When Zorua was 2 feet away from the barrier Pokemon, he vanished and instantly reappeared behind Mr. Mime. Suddenly, Mr. Mime whipped around with a glowing blue fist and punched Zorua in the gut. He yelped in pain as he was thrown across the field, landing in a heap in front of Ash. Said trainer narrowed his eyes at his opponent. She's communicating with her Pokemon psychically, isn't she? Yes, Beldum confirmed. See the way her eyes are glowing? Alright, Ash thought. If she wants to use her tricks, let's use ours. Are you okay, Zorua? I'm fine, but that hurt, Zorua replied. Good. Now get ready, 'cause it's time for me to go all out. Ash closed his eyes and focused on the aura in his body. The aura is with me, he whispered to himself. Suddenly, the whole room filled his vision, every crevice glowing in shades of blue. Across the field, Mr. Mime and Sabrina were glowing with pink psychic energy, and there was a tether of psychic energy linking them together. It was very similar to the blue aura tether that Ash could see linking himself to his Pokemon. Dig, Ash commanded mentally. Instantly, Zorua burrowed his way underground and started digging his way towards the barrier Pokemon. Sabrina and Mr. Mime reached out with their psychic senses, trying to detect the dark type, but it was impossible for them. Come up from behind and launch a Shadow Ball, Ash ordered. Behind Mr. Mime, the tricky fox Pokemon erupted out of the ground, a Shadow Ball charged and hovering in front of his open mouth. Take this! Zorua launched the ghost attack at Mr. Mime from behind. Mr. Mime, who turned around in surprise, took the ball of ghost energy right in the gut. Mime! It shouted in pain as it was blown back. Quickly, follow up with Incinerate! Ash ordered. Zorua breathed a small stream of fire at Mr. Mime. Suddenly, a clear barrier appeared in front of Mr. Mime, and the Incinerate merely bounced off. A moment later, Mr. Mime formed a Shadow Ball between his hands and launched it at Zorua. Dodge! Ash telepathed. Zorua made to leap aside, but he was too slow, and the Shadow Ball struck his leg. Zorua collapsed to the ground with a yelp of pain. Mr. Mime's fist started glowing with ice energy, and he ran down the field towards the downed dark type. Ash grinned as a plan formed in his head. Fake tears, he said. Zorua stayed on the ground and looked up at Mr. Mime with big, watery eyes, tears leaking down his face. The barrier Pokemon slowed down and hesitated slightly about 2 feet away from Zorua, but that was all Ash needed to enact the rest of his plan. Feint Attack! Instantly, the tears vaporized from Zorua's face and were replaced by an evil grin. The tricky fox Pokemon leapt to his feet and vanished, reappearing a second later and crashing into Mr. Mime's unguarded back. Finish it with Shadow Ball! Ash ordered. Zorua whipped around and fired a Shadow Ball at Mr. Mime. The attack struck and caused an explosion that blanketed the field with smoke. Ash, however, could instantly see that Mr. Mime was knocked out. Once the smoke had cleared away, the judge raised his flag. Mr. Mime is unable to battle! Zorua wins!